What's going on, everybody? Thank you for giving your time to join me. Before we jump into the episode, I want to remind you to let me know what you think. I do this to bring what I think is interesting or misunderstood or unappreciated to everyone, and I'm always curious what you have to say about it. I like criticisms and compliments, so feel free to be blunt. Same goes for ratings and such. If you enjoy some or all of the work, just click some number of stars that reflects that, if you would. There's also Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I'm on all of them at The Best Idea, YouTube. I'm still branching out. I recently started writing articles and publishing them on Substack under The Best Idea. The link will be in the notes for the show for all these things. That writing may or may not be on topics that we cover here, so have a look. The first two articles, just to give you an idea, one's like a formal essay about a topic we covered, not letting kids under 21 on social media. And the other one was a little more fun. It's like a how-to article on manipulation, which was a lot of fun to write. So I think you'll enjoy it. The Patreon page is still the most direct way to support what I'm doing. There's 2 levels there. $3 a month get you first dibs on Stop the Presses episodes. And I'm working on a few other perks to add to that tier. And then there's just $1, the tip bucket. I spent the majority of my career in the service industry, so I understand the value of a tip. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it's extremely easy to access and set up. And any one of those things or all of those things that you do would be very much appreciated. Again, thank you for being here. And here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Best Idea Podcast. I'm Stephen Cochran with a Stop the Presses episode. It's going to be technology-based today. It dawned on me recently that these Stop the Presses episodes, they're very much all over the place if you've listened to a couple of them. It's a story from here, a story from there. Basically, I read a lot of articles anyway, so I just take the ones that are interesting, keep track, make a list, record an episode when I've got, 6 or 7 of them. But I think going forward, it makes more sense to do some sort of a theme. So we're talking about, the same sort of thing. It sounds more interesting to me anyway. I make no promises that I'm going to stick to that 100%, but we'll give it a shot and see where we end up. But anyway, so technology is kind of the theme for today. And the first thing, depending on how old you are, you might think about with advancements in technology, for me, flying cars. Back to the Future probably sunk that one in to a generation's head. Flying cars. We still don't have flying cars, which is a tremendous disappointment, but seems like we're getting there slowly but surely. So the first article is from the Wall Street Journal, and it is headlined as United Airlines puts down deposit for flying taxis. So United Airlines put down $10 million for a company called, or gave to a company called Archer Aviation. And what they're developing, what it looks like is a really small plane with 6 individual sets of propellers, all like on a helicopter. And they're developing these things as taxis inside the city type flying. They're a San Francisco Bay Area company, and they start off saying United Airlines Holding has paid $10 million deposit for 100 electric flying taxis, a sign that the airline is growing more confident in the technology. So, idea being, traffic is getting really congested in any big city, and the only ways to get around that are quick is to fly. There are not a lot of people, but there are some people that have access to private jets, for example, that will literally just fly from one city to a city that is 10 minutes away. If you, for example, I found an article about, this is obviously just celebrities and people that have a tremendous amount of money. Kylie Jenner, very, very wealthy person, took a flight that lasted 17 minutes to get from one city in California to another. It would have been a 40-minute drive, but instead she took her plane. It was 17 minutes. They got a lot of people that have done this. Floyd Mayweather, it says he took a 10-minute flight from one city in Nevada to the other. Drake, Jack Nicklaus, who's a golfer, I'm told, Mark Wahlberg. So if you have the funds, you can just take a jet. If you don't, though, it seems like United Airlines is investing in this company to create these taxis that will fly you around for what is supposed to be a reasonable price. It's a 4-passenger aircraft created by Archer Aviation. And the big money coming from an airline makes a lot of sense because they're going to have to pivot somehow from jumbo jets burning a lot of fuel to doing something that is a little bit more environmentally friendly. I don't know if they're going to get to a point where they can do a 737 that's electric, but this is the beginning for them. And the article goes on, American Airlines Group, which last year invested $25 million in Vertical Aerospace, another electric aircraft startup, last month committed to making pre-delivery payments of 50 electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft and confirm reservations for delivery slots, though the money hasn't yet changed hands. So this thing is moving forward. I personally cannot wait to get into a fucking electric flying taxi. That is the future of Uber. I don't take Ubers, but I will take this. It just sounds like fun. And actually, they go on to say that in the article. It says prices will be comparable to Uber Black service, where a trip from Manhattan to New York can cost $110 or $120, and the price will come down over time. And it says trips for electric flying taxis will compete with airport trips and cars and rideshare services. That's the goal. I am here for that. I cannot wait for that. It is going to be a marked improvement over how we get around right now. And another big thing, another story that we all think about probably when it comes to technology is delivery. I mean, Amazon has changed the world in remarkable ways. Everybody now expects to be able to get whatever they want within 2 days of ordering it or 3 days. But leave it to the Swiss to jump way ahead of what we're doing. What their plan is to have an underground cargo delivery network of tunnels. All right, this is from the Good News Network, and the headline is Switzerland's brilliant plan for underground cargo delivery tunnels to reduce traffic is now underway. So they're already pushing forward with this idea. Article starts out, the dream of a new and ambitious mode of freight transportation took a big leap towards reality in Switzerland. On August 1st, planning stages commenced to build an automated tunnel network that would ship cargo in shipping pods on a self-charging rail system. Let me hit you with that one more time. An automated tunnel network that would ship cargo in shipping pods on a self-charging rail system. It'll begin as a 46-mile stretch between Zurich and a major logistics hub in Niederbipp, and I know I didn't say that right. It would grow to be as much as 310 miles connecting all of the Swiss cantons, which is basically like counties or parishes, depending on where you live here. Whole thing runs on renewable energy. The project is estimated to take 40% of all freight-bearing traffic off the roadways in a sustainable way that doesn't involve clearing any land for any additional roads. Everything that I see that all the technological advancements that we're coming out with, everything is centered on being carbon neutral, environmentally friendly, electric, renewable, all positive stuff. All positive stuff. It says a similar set of tracks would run on the ceilings of these tunnels to transport smaller stuff. So obviously I'll have the article links in the show notes. You can go look at this yourself, but in case you don't want to go look at it, you can imagine the tunnel itself on the bottom, basically train tracks, electrified and renewing the energy of these pods as they go past. But then on the ceiling, smaller tracks where you literally have like your smaller pods where you can just, you put, 3-4 Amazon packages in each pod. It goes up and down on an elevator at these different hubs that they set up. The tunnels are designed to be about 20 feet in diameter. And it says the pods will be big enough for a pallet or two in the big ones. They'll have refrigerated pods for temperature-sensitive goods. And they'll have these terminals. Large elevators will pull the pods up, and the podlets, that's what they call the small ones, the little podlets, out of the gloom and up into these fulfillment centers. Now, they're able to do cool shit like this in Switzerland because the structure of their government is different than ours. The way the public there thinks about these sorts of projects is definitely different than we have here. And it's a much smaller place. This is the equivalent, if you've never seen Switzerland, it's a tiny country. It'd be the equivalent of like Alabama doing this within Alabama's geography. They're not using any subsidies or anything from the government. So no public funds. This is all coming from private companies, private investment, but is a really cool idea. And this is one of the advantages that we sit in, is we can watch these other countries make moves like this, see how well they work, and then steal the idea. I did an entire podcast on stealing other people's ideas. That is, in and of itself, is a great idea. Let's wait, see how this works out, and then we call Alabama. Hey, you guys aren't doing anything else with your money. Why not? I think this is a really cool idea. And so those two things, kind of big picture, kind of macro, but there's some other stuff that I found that is much more personal, and I am very curious as to what you might think of this. So for example, I'll just give you the headline of this one. Also comes from the Good News Network. Fantastic website. The headline is, "These micro robots can clean teeth by shape-shifting into toothbrush and floss forms." So let me ask you, micro robots cleaning your teeth? Yes? No? Maybe? Article starts, "In a few years, you may just be throwing away your dental care kit, replacing it with a totally science fiction shape-shifting robot that acts as a toothbrush, rinse, and dental floss in one. The technology is poised to offer a new and automated way to perform the mundane but critical daily tasks of brushing and flossing for those who have difficulty doing so, such as amputees or the disabled, quadriplegics, or the elderly." Now, let's be completely honest. You know, and I know, that as much as a product like this would be extremely helpful for amputees, the disabled, quadriplegics, or the elderly, this is a product for lazy people. More than those people, 100%. Why? Because there's more lazy people to buy it. This is for people that don't brush their teeth because they don't feel like it, don't brush their teeth because they're lazy, don't brush their teeth because they don't care about it. This is for those people. Now, it sounds good to say, oh, we're building this new technology because we want to help people that don't have arms or people that are too old to lift a toothbrush. Let's be real. This is for 325-pound Americans that don't want to lift a toothbrush. Anyway, the article goes on. The building blocks of these micro robots are iron oxide nanoparticles that have both catalytic and magnetic activity. They use a magnetic field to sweep away dental plaque from the broad surfaces of the teeth. Or they transform into elongated strings that can slip between teeth like a length of dental floss. This sort of technology is just red meat to the people that think that the vaccines have Bill Gates' personal microchips in them to control your brains. I mean, can you imagine what the conspiracy theorists are going to say about micro toothbrushes? Now, thankfully, the 300-pound lazy person I just alluded to is probably also the conspiracy theorist, so we might not have to worry about it. So this technology was developed in-house at the University of Pennsylvania, and they have a proof of concept for it. They haven't actually made them yet. And what does it say? Within a couple of years. That's what they're shooting for, is to have this product actually out and about being used within a couple of years. Good luck to them. I'm not sure if I would ever use it, but I like the idea. So even more personal, even a little bit closer to your health. What about microscopic robots that act like white blood cells? What do you think? The headline is Microscopic Robots Made from White Blood Cells Could Treat and Prevent Life-Threatening Illnesses. White blood cells have been made into a kind of micro-robot that could treat and prevent life-threatening illnesses, according to scientists in China. Now, actually, that reminds me, there's another thing regarding China that I'm going to bring up in a second. The tiny laser-guided machines are made from white blood cells and are set to revolutionize medicine. Name Nutribots. They can deliver drugs to precise locations in the body after being directed by laser beams. This doesn't even sound real. Other devices developed to perform similar tasks contain synthetic materials, which in several instances have triggered serious immune responses and biological rejection. So this one is designed to get around all that. It's like if you get an organ transplant or something like that, your body tries to eat it or kill it because it knows, your immune system knows that it is a foreign agent. It is not yours. So you have to take these drugs for the rest of your life, basically, whenever you get an organ transplant. So this, they're trying to devise so that it will get around that problem. They used zebrafish, said the Chinese team. In experiments on the tails of zebrafish, the Chinese team used an incredibly impressive and precise laser called scanning optical tweezers. That's the name of the laser, to perform 3 potential applications with the Nutribots. These optical tweezers point a highly focused beam to hold and move microscopic and submicroscopic particles in a manner similar to tweezers, and were used with the help of the Nutribots for cell therapy, targeted medicine, and removal of debris and organic waste that can trigger disease. Aside from this being slightly scary, the idea of being able to do this, pretty impressive. Why zebrafish, you ask? Well, it turns out the zebrafish have high blood circulation in their tails, allowing for these to be clearly identified. So it was just simpler. And the article goes on to try and make me feel better and says it's significantly less scary than other nanobot medical applications being developed elsewhere, like these minuscule crabs theorized as agents to dispose of tumors, clear clogged arteries, or stop internal bleeding. Yes, crabs. I didn't even include it because I'm not getting behind the crabs. But they've made these tiny nanobot crabs that are able to move without a battery, and it just looks like the coming of a disaster. So I'm not curious. I am not curious. I'm hoping they're just going to leave that one to the side. I'll take the fucking toothbrush and the taxi and maybe these white blood cells, but I kind of doubt it. Not the crabs. I'll include the crabs article in the show notes. You can go look at the crabs if you want to, and you decide for yourself if that is the sort of technology that you are interested in seeing become real life. Not me. But this sort of thing could become standard of care soon enough. Have you ever played Sims? It's the what is it? You create your whole world. It's you build a life on your computer. And the headline that I came across just kind of struck me, and I'll tell you why in a second. But the headline is, and it's from Mashable.com, is The Sims gets another LGBTQ inclusive update with a spectrum of sexual orientations. So The Sims 4 is set to release a more in-depth update of the game, and you can input a variety of sexual identities on your player and the virtual characters in your game. And it says it was designed in collaboration with LGBTQ organizations called It Gets Better Project and GLAD, both very good organizations. The game's sexual orientation update adds 2 new customization scales for players interested in exploring a more full range of sexual and romantic identities. And it says it's not lost that the combined update and expansion pack could more accurately embody a difficult period of time for many LGBTQ youth in the virtual gaming worlds. There's new romance options, which include a simple selection for romantic attraction of different genders, but you can also go through the entire spectrum of genders. The new features can be used so Sims players can experience same or different sex attraction, feeling physical attraction but not romantic attraction, not feel any sexual or romantic attraction. You can set the parameters of your characters to have something they even call the woohoo option, which is a certain kind of relationship that you can carry on. It's got updates for transgender players and all this since the original launch. I think Sims came out in 2000 or something like that. And it says, regardless of public opinion, early game developers still sought ways to include same-sex relationships in the game. Why am I saying all this? I'm bringing this up not because I have any issue with them adding, a greater variety of relationships to the game. I got an issue with people spending this much time on the game. To be honest with you, why does it are people this involved in The Sims is the question. I guess if you're gonna be, it's better for it to be inclusive so that you feel comfortable, or maybe they're just trying to sell more of the game. I don't get it. I don't understand building a virtual world and spending time in it with characters that you created so that you can have relationships that aren't real with people that aren't there, in a place that doesn't exist, in a room that hasn't been vacuumed in weeks. I mean, what? Why? I didn't even know Sims was still a thing. I remember it from when I was a kid. I didn't know that they were still going at it. But here it is. If you play, then there you go. There's more variety than ever. They even added in 2019 gender-neutral bathrooms. It just seems like The Sims 4 key art included its first lesbian couple. I just don't know why we care about Sims this much. I guess it's going to become more of a reality with virtual reality and the metaverse and all this stuff that I read about. I really don't completely understand it. I'm not excited to find out about it. It doesn't sound all that interesting. But this just struck me with a big why. They lost me. They lost me with still existing. But it could just be because I'm ignorant. In totally unrelated news to the Sims 4 update, imagine, sticking with technology though, I'm keeping the promise for this episode, sticking with technology. Imagine there's an earthquake wherever you are. Everything is destroyed, rubble everywhere, and teams of people set in, first responders, cops, firemen, what have you, set in to find survivors. Well, there is a company in Singapore that have a, what should I call it, a really novel way to go about finding people that need help. And what they're using is cockroaches. Now, not robotic cockroaches. These are actually cyborg cockroaches. So the headline is Spore Team Turning Cockroaches into Life-Saving Cyborg Bugs at Disaster Sites. So unlike some of the things we were just talking about where they're just building little robots like the crabs and these the white blood cells, all that sort of stuff, in this case they are taking adult 6 centimeter long hissing cockroaches from Madagascar and attaching little backpacks to them. I shit you not, attaching backpacks to the cockroaches that enable them to find people in disaster sites. Article starts off, this is from straighttimes.com. It's a Singapore newspaper. Cockroaches are known to infiltrate homes through the tiniest gaps, and this innate ability now has engineers in Singapore working to turn the pesky insect into an ally of rescuers at disaster sites. The species of these hissing fucking cockroaches. That is just, they're bad enough here. I didn't know they had a version that hissed at you. That's a gangster fucking cockroach. Anyway, it says the species is large enough for Associate Professor Hirataka Sato and his team at the School of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering to equip the bug with a 5.5G backpack consisting of several sensors, including those that warn for the presence of gases such as carbon dioxide. They also carry small infrared cameras that can detect life by picking up temperature signatures. And the idea is to release a team of them at a disaster site. So just imagine this. The earthquake hits. You're under the rubble, waiting for somebody to come help you. And a swarm of hissing cockroaches surrounds you and your fellow disaster victims. Do they still hiss? I don't know. It doesn't say here. In that immediate moment, you can't imagine you'd know this technology existed unless you listen to this podcast or happen to stumble upon this. So you're just there, you're chilling, right? A little nervous. And then all of a sudden you're surrounded by fucking cockroaches hissing at you. I can't get over the hissing part. What they've done here, like I said, these are live cockroaches, and they attach them with a microcomputer. There's a microcomputer attached to the cockroach's backpack that sends electrical signals to its muscles to direct the insect's movement. Imagine what this is like for the cockroach. I mean, just can't control where it's walking to. All of a sudden, it's got an extra 5 grams on its back, which I'm sure it notices. And all of a sudden, it just has no agency whatsoever. I'm not sure how much they think about that now, but they would probably, it'd be a little awkward for the cockroach. One of the directors at this center says that deploying a team of insect hybrid robots or cyborgs that can navigate small and tight spaces that may be dangerous to humans will protect our frontline responders and improve the agility and efficiency of home team operations. And he says these Madagascar hissing cockroaches are hardy creatures that are reportedly able to withstand 10 times more radiation than humans. And they can live up to 7 days without their heads, as they are able to breathe through spiracles on their sides. God bless these people for thinking of this and going through with it. So what they do is they've got like 200 of these hissing cockroaches in a room, and they knock them out with carbon dioxide. They put some wax on the back of the cockroach and then scrape it off a little bit, and then they attach the electrodes and the microchip on its back. And then several minutes later, the cockroach regains consciousness, starts running around. The pictures of them doing this in the article, I mean, you might not be able to visualize how big 5 centimeters is, but I mean, it's palm of hand, It's a big cockroach. It's a big cockroach. So they're hoping to do mass manufacturing of these cockroaches. I guess they have an endless supply of them in Madagascar, but they're hoping that they'll be able to deploy these cyborg roaches in the field in the next 5 years. They're inexpensive compared with using actual robots. They don't need energy for movement because the creature is still alive and it just moves how it moves. I guess they let it eat every now and then. So the way it would work is the cyborgs are released at the disaster site. They navigate and locate the survivors. Their locations are transmitted to the rescue team, and then the rescue team maps out where the survivors are, and people go get them. I mean, technology is amazing, and this is where we're going with it. We've got flying taxis. We've got underground delivery systems. We've got robot dental floss. We've got full expansion of the virtual world in Sims. We've got cyborg cockroaches. It's fantastic. It's an amazing time to be alive. And actually, in all seriousness, the next thing I want to talk about, and the last thing that I want to talk about to cap off this episode, is truly one of the most amazing things that people could have ever discovered and or figured out or produced, or however you want to describe it. Is just thrills me to no end. And it's a little bit more complicated than those other things, I guess. But it's got to do with proteins, the ones that are in our bodies, that our bodies make. This article comes from Technology Review, and you might have heard of this happening because this is not brand new, but they're making more and more progress with it. But protein folding. DeepMind it says, AI for protein folding. DeepMind has opened new paths for drug discovery and design by solving a 50-year-old problem in biology. So here is the basics of this. The proteins that are in your body, I mean, we don't think about this stuff on a daily basis, but it's extremely important. The proteins that are in your body, they're made with amino acids. There's 20 naturally occurring amino acids in the world, okay? Your body takes them, puts those acids in a certain order, and then once that is completed, naturally those amino acids are attracted in different ways to each other, which causes, basically think of just a long string. Actually, think of a slinky. Think of a long slinky that you're at one end, a friend at the other. You pull this thing about as far as it can go without destroying it. We've all stretched out a slinky when we were kids, I think. Not that far, but right there. And then it naturally folds itself into this crazy complicated pattern and shape. Okay, that is what all protein is. That simple. Protein is just a string of amino acids that curls up, folds in on itself in a very, very strange but specific shape. And it is just that, it is so simple. That shape alone is what does the job. That's it. There's nothing more complex. Sometimes, we hear about this sort of stuff, and I think we overthink it. Like, oh man, biology. No, it's just that simple. It is a string of amino acids that are attracted in different ways, and it ends up folding itself into a weird shape. Here's the problem. Sometimes it folds wrong. The wrong amino acid gets put in the wrong place just because shit happens, and it folds wrong. That causes a tremendous amount of problems for the people that it happens inside of. A disease, because it causes disease, and the diseases that are based on this problem are notoriously hard to treat and kill thousands and thousands, maybe millions, I don't know, but at least thousands and thousands of people on an annual basis. But not only does it kill people, these are the diseases that you know of that ruin the quality of life more than anything else. We're talking about Huntington's disease, where your brain just turns to mush and you have trouble speaking anymore, standing, cystic fibrosis, all, sickle cell anemia. These are all diseases that occur only because a protein is shaped wrong. It's kind of amazing that it is that simple, that the physical shape of something is all that is required for it to do its job, or for it to really screw up your entire life. So the article, it starts off, by the end of 2020, DeepMind, a UK-based artificial intelligence lab, had already produced many impressive achievements in AI. Still, when the group's program for predicting protein folding was released in November of that year, 2020, biologists were shocked with how well it worked. And it goes on to say, nearly everything your body does, it does with proteins. Understanding what individual proteins do is crucial for drug development and understanding many diseases. If you just go to, you could just go to Wikipedia, okay? These are called proteinopathies. So it's diseases that are created because there's problems with proteins. And I'll include the Wikipedia article so you can just click on it. But first of all, the list is long. It includes things like I already said, but also Alzheimer's disease, glaucoma, ALS. If you've ever seen anybody suffering from ALS, it's heartbreaking, the sorts of things that happen because proteins fold the wrong way. That's all it takes, is for it to fold the wrong way. And it says that also in this article. What a protein does is determined by its three-dimensional shape. So what this DeepMind AI can do, AlphaFold is what they call it, the software uses an AI technique called deep learning to predict the shape of proteins to the nearest atom. Because before this, it would take them months to unravel a protein to see how it actually folded. Imagine that. Imagine the slinky being full up, down, sideways, around. It's an incredibly complicated shape. All of them are like this. And then you have to unravel that slinky to get it back straight, and then memorize how you unraveled it so that you know how it folded itself over. It's unbelievably difficult, and they've made it unbelievably easy. This particular technology is beyond exciting. It is. I don't like to use the word miracle because it took a lot of work for this to happen, but the positive aspect of that word miracle I want to completely use for this, because that is what we're looking at over the next, years, that these amazing people will put their time into figuring out for the rest of us to benefit, is how we can get around, maybe even reverse some of these diseases. It's incredible. So it says scientific teams around the world have started using this research for cancer, antibiotic resistance. DeepMind has also set up a public database that is just filling with protein structures. It currently has 800,000 entries. And it says it'll add 100 million more, nearly every protein known to science, in the next year. DeepMind has spun off this work into a company called Isomorphic Labs, which it says will collaborate with biotech and pharmaceutical companies. The true impact of AlphaFold 2 may take a year or two to be clear, but its potential is rapidly unfolding in labs around the world. There's still a lot for these women and men to do as far as the work before we're going to see, before your doctor is going to be talking about this to you. But just know that it's easy to look out and be really pessimistic or cynical about some of the stuff that's going on. There's also some amazing, amazing things that are happening. And this, to me, is chief among them. It's absolutely astonishing that they were able to do this. And we are all lucky that we're alive for it. I can't wait to see what kind of progress they make with it. Anyway, I appreciate you sticking with me through this first themed Stop the Presses episode. I'll see you next time.